Hello and welcome to or back to my channel. If you feel we've been down this road before, it's because we have. 2 weeks ago I posted a video about Jimmy Snow's first clarification video, and now we're going to be talking about the second and theoretically last video. I don't know why, but I feel there is a potential for a third. So if you looked at the first one, you might have noticed it was over an hour long, and my video is not. I did trim a lot. If you would like to view the video in its entirety, I will leave a link to it below. I will also link to my first video in the cards if you want to get caught up on the situation. And now I'm terrible at intros, so I'm just going to go ahead and dive into it.
To be honest, turns out I can be a moron. Regarding the criticisms I've received, some of the things I actually do agree with. Took me a while to get there, but yeah, I'm there. I believe there are things I did wrong, but there are also narratives about me being pushed out there that aren't just wrong, they are really, really hurtful.
And there's one.
So I just want to ask you this. If you are one of the people who has been so mad and really wanting me to admit to times I was wrong, you're going to get to see some of that. But I also want you to be open to the idea that you might have been wrong about some things too.
So we are less than 5 minutes in, and we've already had two I did this wrong, but, which is not how an apology actually works.
The first thing I want to share is going to be very vulnerable, and I know that there are going to be some video responses, I'm sure, made to me that are saying I'm being manipulative by starting here.
So I guess Jimmy did not learn from the previous video that he shouldn't preemptively tell people what he expects their response to be. Or he's trying to head off criticism by saying, I already know you're going to do this for the wrong reasons.
I thought I had a super hard exterior and interior, and that when I'm right, all I need is to be right, and then anything else won't be able to hurt me.
Maybe I'm just being ungenerous, but it sounds like he's saying he used to think that all he needed was to be right and words would not hurt him, but he was wrong, and even though he knows he's right now, words are hurting him, so he's not as strong as he thought.
Yes, in some cases, and even many cases, just people expressing that the nicest form would be like, I'm not who they thought I was. And that, turns out, hurts a lot to hear. So to the point that I've considered quitting a few times, but I don't actually know what else I would do at this point. And I definitely can't turn my back on my business and my staff. When I'm done, I need to be done with this for a while.
I don't think that's actually how it works.
It honestly doesn't feel like hyperbole right now to tell you that this is killing me. Because the dark places I've gone, very, very dark places.
I see we're still doing guilt trips.
All I honestly want is to help people and make people's lives better, and I've been failing to do that lately. But also lately, people have come for every aspect of my life except for my dog. And now that I've mentioned it, Dexter might be next.
I don't know what Jimmy means by this. Does he mean people are like threatening him, or they're just asking questions? Because, I mean, really at this point it could be either or. And I'm also sure it goes without saying, don't send Jimmy or anyone connected to him threats.
So if when you hear me out, you still think I'm awful, then I will be sad to see you go, but I'm going to put everything on the table.
This sounds so familiar. I feel like I heard this like a month ago or something.
I'm going to be honest, and I hope for the most part, I've recovered at least some understanding from people, even if you still don't agree with me.
So I would suggest stop saying X, Y, and Z, but, because that makes it sound like you're giving excuses.
I absolutely think I did things wrong, but I'm also resentful of a lot of conspiracies and jumps to conclusions that people have come up with.
So initially I was going to ask, who is this apology video for? Because this is a very weird way to begin. And then I went and looked at his channel and I realized he never actually apologizes for anything. He says he was wrong, he admits he messed up, but there was never the words I'm sorry in it. So nix that question, but I still find this a very strange way to begin.
I'm not going to address all of them. I honestly couldn't if I wanted to. There's too many now. But if you are one of the people who started creating conspiracies about my personal life or about my current relationship especially, I'm actually not trying to save you as a subscriber at all, and you can go.
So where was this happening? Because I've seen speculation, I've seen questions, but I've seen no one creating conspiracies.
The rage I felt seeing those kinds of things and how it hurt my partner also. Yeah, if my problem here is that I can't humble myself enough to get over that, then I'm just going to accept that that's a character flaw of mine, because I straight up have contempt for the things that I had to read.
That you had to read? Well, he deleted his Twitter. I mean, maybe people were sending him things on Instagram.
Regarding saving anyone else as a subscriber, I don't think that's why I'm doing this time.
I'm sorry, is he saying that he was trying to save subscribers with the first video he made about this?
Obviously, I think I pretty much said so, that I was trying something like that the first time. I thought by sharing and being open, it would stop the narratives going around, and as I said in the video, I was motivated to try and protect my business.
Okay, I guess that was what the first video was about. And I don't think he's really learned much. I mean, he's addressing way more in this video, but so far I'm not really seeing what I'm looking for. I mean, granted, so far all I've seen is a lot of explanations, but all right, carrying on.
But this time is not that. This time, I am motivated by the fact that many people have adopted in their mind a character of me that isn't me. And some of that is my fault, but some of it is also not.
Okay, my question for this video is Jimmy at any point going to say, this is my fault, without but following it?
Some of it has come from creators who are motivated by the views they get when talking about me.
So for the record, my motivation is and was the fact that I was a subscriber to Jimmy for a couple years, and for that matter, I was also subscribed to Rachel, whom I learned about through his own channel. If I hadn't been a subscriber, I doubt I would even have heard of this, let alone have an opinion on it.
And by telling people how to feel about me. But some of it's also been because I've sort of been a dick.
Sort of.
The knowledge that I have worked so hard to be a better person and be an activist and be an advocate and to have all of it washed away over something that felt like a totally personal matter.
Well, it was personal until you decided to sacrifice yourself on the altar of Gabby Hanna. And if anyone knows what his activism and advocacy is, please let me know, because I'm still wondering.
To put lightly, I'm not doing okay right now.
So I have been in the dark place before, and it's not a place I would send anyone, and I do feel bad for Jimmy if he's struggling, but there's also the part of me that whispers, where was all his concern for Rachel when he found out what was happening whilst he was bothering her about Gabby Hanna? I don't know, just something about this rubs me the wrong way.
But there have been plenty of people who have basically said, don't try to defend yourself, just admit you were wrong, and here you're going to see basically a mix of both.
No, I'm sorry, Jimmy, but that is not good enough.
I'm not going to lie about my intentions or actions to appease people who are mad in regards to where I think a popular sentiment is wrong.
Who exactly is asking you to lie?
If that's what I think happened, I'm going to say so.
Didn't he just get upset about people creating conspiracies about him? Is that not what... Okay. All right.
I've been fighting against popular sentiments my entire channel. Like, what do you think it's like to fight with Christians? I'm going to mention this first because I know it's probably going to come up anyway. Yeah, I'm going to leave this video monetized. Mostly because right now, I think I have to. It might seem scummy, but I hope that you're going to understand that this, I don't have a better word than drama, but this incident has hurt my business in a significant way, and I absolutely can't turn down much of anything right now that could make sure I could cover my business costs.
So someone really needs to tell Jimmy that sometimes the best thing to say is nothing. It would never have crossed my mind that this video should be demonetized until he said something, and now it just sounds like a guilt trip.
But I'm compelled to also promise to do something outside of myself with it, so I will be, assessing what I need to cover those costs and doing a donation otherwise to the Trevor Project from profits from this episode.
Okay, I mean, that's good, but sometimes every good thing that you do doesn't have to be announced.
Okay, so why did I turn off comments on the first Gabby and Rachel video and then go on a blocking spree? First of all, let me say this. I shouldn't have made that video at all. It was a mistake, and it was one I made in the heat of the moment when I was mad at Rachel.
But I thought he made the first video to try and save his channel, as ill-advised as that attempt was. But now it's because he was mad at Rachel? Okay.
For saying things in an interview about me that I didn't agree with. I want to say directly to Rachel and Rachel only right now, I'm sorry I made that video.
Personally, I hope Rachel did not see that first video, but thank you for being very specific as to who you were apologizing to.
So the number one reason I turned off comments was this, and many of you still won't agree with it. It isn't that I can't receive any criticism or that I want to make sure no one ever sees a negative thing. It was that the narratives being spun in the comments I felt weren't accurate. People were making claims about me that weren't true, and even if that was their honest assessment, I didn't have time to take on and correct each one.
So maybe things went wild after I went to bed, but all the comments that I saw, and there were a lot, were very respectful, polite, downright gentle. So what is he talking about? What narratives were being spun? He keeps saying that narratives are being spun, but I would really love to know what he means because I can't think of any.
And if I'd tried, I probably would have fucked that up anyway. Like, I don't know if you've all noticed, I'm not right now doing very good at responding to people that I'm mad at for misrepresenting me.
Jimmy, are you sure you want to make a living doing YouTube?
I'm not kidding. That was for the first few hours. Most popular was "You're friends with Gabby, I'm out."
So did he try deleting those comments first and that's why I didn't see them?
And then when drama channels covered my video and spun what I said, the comments all shifted to the narratives they put out there.
Oh, I have so many questions. So I went to bed and when I woke up, comments were turned off. So just how quickly were these drama channels working on this hour-long video to spin this new narrative? What drama channels were they, out of curiosity? Because all the videos I've seen covering this have been very respectful. And I haven't seen any like misconceptions or anything like that. Lots of wondering, but nothing too outlandish. And what is the narrative they spun?
That video had less than 20% engagement before I turned off the comments, which indicates to me that a lot of people weren't even watching half of it. And yet there was all of these, I believe, false narratives going.
So you're going to police comments based on the average engagement, but there's no way to tell unless something special happens when you have a certain number of subscribers. There's no way to tell how long a specific person has watched a video. And also, it was a really long and rambly video, so it's entirely possible people skipped around because it was really hard to sit through.
So while I'm definitely here to also talk about the things I did wrong, turning off the comments on that is actually not one I regret, but maybe my communication about it, that I probably do.
How hard is it to just say it was something I did wrong and not add a qualifier?
And I also acknowledge that it made people feel like I didn't want to hear things that I don't agree with. I hope you'll be happy to know that, first of all, even the comments that got deleted and blocked, I read most of them. It's part of why I'm not doing great.
So again, I feel bad for Jimmy if his mental state isn't so great right now, but guilt tripping people for not falling over themselves to say, oh no, it's okay, you're totally absolved, or whatever he's hoping to hear, that's not the way.
Second, I have now had conversations with creators and experts that I felt could help me figure out what I did and didn't do wrong. I didn't just seek criticism. At a certain point, I need to find criticism, but it has to be qualified criticism.
Okay, you can say that as much as you want, but so long as you're on the internet, so long as you upload things to YouTube, so long as you want to make your living off YouTube, people are going to criticize you whether or not they're qualified. And on that note, what makes someone qualified to criticize someone?
But some of you on an individual level probably feel slighted by me. And in some cases, I totally did slight you. But I do want you to know for 95+% of you, it was not at all personal. For the same reasons I talked about before, and mostly now my mental health, there's still going to be the same policy for a little while as hopefully this starts a conversation and I hope diffuses. However, I still want to say to you that if you felt betrayed by me, and you are, especially those people who have supported me for so long, only to have me turn on you by deleting you or blocking you, I am actually sorry. And I'm sorry for how the feelings that invoked.
All right, well, we're this far in and there's finally been a proper apology. I feel this video probably could have just been this, but we still have a ways to go, so let's just keep on going.
For the record, the Jimmy Snow you have seen recently that you don't like, I don't really like that guy either. And I hope you're going to understand that I already knew that negative profiles of me were being painted in a lot of places, and I needed to universally shut that off my channel because truly, it just felt like it was coming from everywhere and people were poisoning the well. Now, it's also a fact that many people complaining that I'm shutting down criticism, they weren't actually there for that. They were there to build and participate in a public attempt at pushing a few different narratives, at frankly pushing my cancellation.
I'm getting some strong girl-defined vibes here, but I have a few thoughts. So, one, didn't he do a whole video about how no one is owed a platform? Two, where was this campaign to cancel Jimmy and how did I miss it? And three, is the cancellation he speaks of just people unsubscribing to him? Is it that out of the realm of possibility that people saw his Rachel video, were totally turned off his content, and decided to unsubscribe all on their own without there being a campaign behind it?
I reminded people that if they have something they want me to read, I have an email and I have a voicemail.
Okay, but if they've been deleted and or blocked by you on YouTube and Twitter, why would they go an extra step to try to contact you again? For one, that could be read as harassment, and two, I mean, at that point, it seems fairly obvious that you just don't want to hear whatever they have to say.
But almost no one took that up. Only a few dozen people compared to thousands of people who are wanting to repeat talking points that I think came from the drama channels. I actually know they came from those channels.
I'm so curious to know what those talking points are.
But people who tried to force points in conversations elsewhere before I was ready, where I had the power to block, I did. But I wasn't doing a great job of communicating that I needed the space or that I wasn't ready.
So this just further proves to me that Jimmy needs a PR person more than he needs a Tesla. There was any number of things Jimmy could have done that would have been better than what he actually did. He could have pinned a tweet to his Twitter profile saying that he wasn't yet ready to talk about the situation. He could have deactivated his Twitter sooner after announcing he was taking a break. He could have ignored people that were asking about the situation. Instead, he, told people to go kick rocks and F off and then blocked them. Which, is this not supposed to be his livelihood?
I'm aware that Gabby is one of the single most hated people on YouTube, perhaps the most hated person on YouTube.
And it still hasn't occurred to you to ask why?
There are thousands of people right now who have such an obsessive hatred of her that a major part of their day, every day, is trying to burn down her world and anything it touches. And some of those people, it was clear, were in my comments.
Is Jimmy new to the internet? I mean, he mentioned her in a video and called himself her friend. So does it really surprise him that her haters were in his comments?
And then final reasons why I turned out the comments and went on a blocking spree. With all of that in mind, was that not only was the engagement on the video itself low, as in how much people were watching the video before leaving, sorry, I'm getting all jumbled, but to me that indicates most people weren't even trying to hear me out. I already suspected that. And then I noticed there were more views on videos spinning and changing what I said and changing my motivation than on my video itself. So there are entire channels who get virtually no views on any other video, except now when they're talking about me or they're talking about Gabby and me.
I find it so interesting that Jimmy assumes the engagement on those videos were better than on his own. And I also find it interesting that he was apparently searching for himself on YouTube. Now, the real question here is, did he watch those videos about himself in full?
But now it actually works to just be me. And I'm not kidding. Those channels are getting thousands of views. There will be people watching who go, they are? Well, I'm going to jump in. It's disappointing.
Right back at you, bub.
And because I know I'm not the way they say I am, it fucking hurts, man.
So I, a tiny creator who's been doing this for 3 months, I'm going to give Jimmy, a larger creator who's been doing this for a few years, some advice. When someone says or posts or whatever mean, untrue things about you, the best thing to do is to just ignore it. Saying anything just fuels the flames and you'll drive yourself crazy if you worry about the actions of other people because you can't control them. So the only thing you can do is just rest in the knowledge that you are not the way they say.
And I 100% know that what I'm about to say, I'm just going to get accused of virtue signaling. And there's nothing I can do about it because it feels important to me and it's true and it matters.
Please stop preemptively telling us what we're going to say, do, think, feel, whatever. It's really annoying and I don't know, it just gives me a weird feeling like he's trying to do something underhanded.
The first one was Martin Luther King Jr. and the second one was Gandhi. Actually, then a few years later, I would read the story of Daryl Davis, and I feel like that is when everything got sort of solidified. All three men taught me how to be a better man and to be a fierce person without succumbing to toxic masculinity. And at the core of what I learned from them was to be bold and to not shy away from confrontation, but to also love everyone, your enemies included.
Well, sure, you can love everyone, but that doesn't mean you have to be everyone's friend.
They also taught me that we should always hope for justice, but then rehabilitation, not just revenge. And for those of you who don't know who Daryl Davis is, he's an African-American man who started befriending members of the KKK and starting a collection of the Klan robes that they would give them when through their friendship, they would ultimately leave. That dude is like the fucking biggest badass in the world to me. So instead of saying, I will be your friend so you will change, that's not actually how I feel. The way I actually feel is, I will be your friend regardless of our disagreements because all humans have value and deserve to be treated like humans.
Okay, but what about the people Gabby has not treated as human?
I'm super paranoid about whether or not people only like me in as much as they can use me.
So my heart actually goes out to Jimmy a little here because I can tell he's actually upset. And this is not, I don't want him to be upset. But at the same time, if you have trust issues because you're afraid, that people only like you so long as they can use you, then Gabby Hanna is really not your friend.
If I had rushed and just apologized for everything people said they disagreed with, it wouldn't have been genuine.
Fair, but you're not apologizing now. You apologize to Rachel, as you should, but everything else is just an explanation or clarification.
I needed to be able to cool off from the defensive state I was in and get to a place where I could really start considering and listening and truthfully, I hope I'm there now, but I don't know if I am. But there's been a sense of urgency lately that I'm kind of taking a shot at it as soon as I feel like maybe I'm ready to go.
I hate to say it, but the cynical side of me wonders if that sense of urgency is from losing so many subscribers in the past week or so.
All right, let's talk about what a lot of you are here for. My fan interactions. And technically it's in a minority of them, but lately it seemed like a lot more. They've not been great. More specifically, my interactions with fans and commenters who are being confrontational. And I'm working on it, kind of like what I was talking about before in therapy. That doesn't mean that I don't think that many of the times I said fuck off aren't justified at all regarding the conversation itself, but I definitely had forgotten the same thing that I asked Rachel to do, is to not forget. I forgot that there are humans on the other side. And so to anyone I hurt by treating them basically like they were a Twitter bot, that was fucked up. And I was wrong, and I am sorry.
So I really feel like Jimmy could have just said, hey, to anyone I swore at and blocked on Twitter, I was wrong and I'm sorry. But apparently he's allergic to just plain old apologies. I have to say, if you accept it, that's great. But to me, it rings a little hollow with all the explanation that he felt the need to give beforehand.
I now think it would have been better for Gabby to have not engaged or gone after Rachel at all. Now, I kind of already felt a little that way, but I didn't like some of the ways that she had gone for Rachel, and I didn't like a lot of the words she had used.
He came to this conclusion after speaking to his therapist. After all that crap he gave Rachel in October about the person on the other side of the screen, and after all the abuse and hate that Gabby threw at Rachel in April, and then his video in June, it took talking to his therapist. Ooh.
But I wasn't as offended by the idea that somebody went after someone they felt like brought negativity in their life.
That book review was released in October, and Gabby suddenly felt the negativity was being brought into her life how many months later? No, this is ridiculous. Why is he bending over backwards to defend Gabby Hanna?
I was definitely wrong about that. I now believe that she should have just let the thing go, and a lot of that because she has a way larger platform than Rachel, and that does matter.
Someone needs to explain to me why Jimmy Snow is willing to give Gabby Hanna all the grace and forbearance, but Rachel Oates gets none, even after knowing what she was going through back in October. And it's going to be a hard sell to convince me that he did not bury this piece in the middle of the video in the hopes that no one would get this far.
But again, I'm going to do better going forward. And I promise, I'm not going to be perfect, but I will tell you that I'm not going to be perfect, and there might be more blocks. Honestly, changing this probably means there will be more blocks in certain places.
The hubris of this man astounds me. Jimmy, you should feel lucky if people continue watching your channel.
But I'm also not going to be continually exposing myself to the negativity that comes on repeat or let them use my platforms to spread negativity about me.
Dude, you do that just fine on your own.
I want to say to anybody that I told to fuck off, I'm sorry for doing it. I really am. This feels like there's going to be a but. It's I know that with a few people it felt so warranted, and it's hard to get past those few people and go okay, but even if it felt warranted for those, it wasn't for so many.
Just stick with the apology, dude. We don't need an explanation as to how you were so harassed by so many that you just got confused and blocked everybody by accident.
There's a very popular one that has popped up that I, Jimmy Snow, am a rape apologist. This is another one that I reject 100%. I resent the assertion, and I am honestly contemptuous of those who say this.
Maybe you're not, Jimmy. Maybe that's unfair. But like it or not, people are judged by the company we keep. And your insistence on remaining friends with Gabby Hanna without being willing to condemn the things that she's been doing is... What conclusions should people draw from that? I mean, silence is approval, they say, and, well, either you don't care enough to say anything about it, or you don't think she's doing anything wrong.
To be a rape apologist is to justify, to defend, or excuse rape, and that is not something I do, and I insist that people who do something like that can change. And I'm not gonna let somebody define me by mistakes that I was brainwashed and abused with in my past.
I see what Jimmy is doing here. People are upset that he befriended Gabby Hanna, who is a rape apologist, and he's taking it and twisting it to try and make it seem as though people are upset that he was a rape apologist back in his Mormon days. That is not what people are talking about, Jimmy, and you know it.
But then I also get accused of defending or supporting a rape apologist, specifically Gabby Hanna. And so I want to say this first. One, being a friend's person, that's being a person's friend, that does not mean that you condone a single action of theirs.
And again, silence is approval. Maybe he's spoken to Gabby about it privately, but I highly doubt that because, as he said last month, they've only spoken twice in this year, so when did he have the opportunity? And also, I'm pretty sure if he had, he would mention it in this video as some way that he's turning Gabby good.
And I also think that every single person watching, every person probably in existence, has at least one friend or family member with a super shitty view.
Deflection. Nice.
Now, I'm definitely aware that Gabby has had some real bad takes in the past. Horrible.
Had? In the past?
I know that there was a time she didn't believe a certain friend about being raped, and that she also expressed a sentiment about most rapes being lied about and other things. I also know that people who've gone through similar experiences have been severely hurt by those sentiments by Gabby.
And you're okay with this because...
And when it comes to the term itself, it is one I don't take lightly. And I admit I have trouble assigning it to people. Even knowing that past takes can be bad, I always want to evaluate those current takes. And on this one, I don't know. I don't know what I feel on that.
This must be some sort of joke. How could he film this thinking it would do any good?
But this doesn't mean that I think Gabby's done nothing wrong, that Gabby doesn't deserve criticism. However, I'm not going to be making public videos laying out Gabby's sins because there's already hundreds of those. There are literally hundreds of videos doing that, maybe thousands. And while I know people don't think she deserves the consideration.
Does he hear himself? Has he heard anything he just said?
To tell you the truth, I do worry about her mental health. I have a hard time when people use the phrase, you're supporting or defending a rape apologist also.
So Jimmy doesn't want anyone to spin narratives about him, but he is more than happy to spin a narrative for Gabby Hanna.
Because the implication there is that when you use the phrase like that, it makes it sound like I am defending the actions related to rape apologetics, which anyone who has watched my channel knows I would never do that.
I have watched your channel for years, and I never thought I would hear what I'm hearing right now. So, no, I don't know any such thing.
And once again, I know it was true about me years ago, and the people who changed my mind were actually mostly progressive women. If they could handle staying friends with me, then I feel like I can handle it too.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you can because you barely ever talk to Gabby, so you don't really have to do much work there, and she's probably not going to come after you because, well, I mean, you're barely in her life after all, so why would she bother?
And I'm going to continue doing that, believing that being friends with people with messed up views, again, there are limits. I certainly wouldn't befriend an actual rapist. But I believe being friends with people with bad views, even bad views about serious topics, leads to a better world.
Since he said he barely talks to Gabby, I can only assume he's thinking that watching his videos are what can turn her into a good person, and he's afraid that if he upsets her, she won't watch anymore, and that's why it's so important to not upset her. Jimmy, you are not Daryl Davis.
I picked Gabby Hanna over Rachel because Rachel posted a critical video of Gabby's poetry. So let me start with something I definitely did wrong. I just shouldn't have said anything to Rachel about the review, even though my intentions were absolutely pure.
Well, I believe they were pure in that you didn't expect to get anything accept a better review or no review for Gabby and nothing for yourself, if that's what you mean by pure.
The only reason why I brought it up was because, believe it or not, empathy, something that I used to think I didn't have enough of, and then learning how it works with autistic people, lately I feel like I have too much.
Right. Shame that empathy is only directed at a chosen few.
If everything people say about Gabby is true, she still doesn't deserve all the hatred that she receives. And I said that in the last video, and I'm not kidding. People disagreed, which is insane to me because she literally gets threats of murder and threats of rape.
And yet, she's still a rape apologist? Where is her empathy?
And then anytime she posts a video, hundreds of comments immediately telling her she's horrible or a piece of shit or whatever else within moments before anyone could have watched the video at all.
His concern for Gabby, it takes my breath away.
But I don't think anything Rachel was making was even in the same realm of stuff like that.
You don't think. Because you can't know, as you still refuse to watch the review.
I will once again state now, I am not defending a single action or video, but I am defending that despite how the internet might feel, that Gabby still deserves to be treated like a human because she is one. That does not mean do not extend consequences.
But what consequences has she experienced? She's admitted to fanning the flames of controversy when it suits her.
The first thing that keeps getting lost and changed from the video I did was that while I knew the whole thing was going to be a book review, the actual thing that was bothering me were these Insta and Twitter posts that to me seemed very unkind. And actually, in comments Rachel has left in other places, Rachel called them childish.
Yeah, sorry, that still doesn't absolve you.
But I 100% understand that the way that first message came across seemed like it was trying to change the tone of a review. I do think that I explained and cleared it up in the messages that followed. However, I know that by the time that happened, Rachel was already mad, and now I know that there were these other things going on in her life that likely made it harder for her to have that conversation with me in a productive way. And I totally understand. If those things were happening to me, I would have been the same. But they are things that were happening in her life that at that time I didn't know were happening.
But you know now.
But here's also the thing. While I do think my intentions and my words have been totally spun and totally misrepresented by channels talking about it and by people who are pushing narratives, I also think that the message was wrong for a different reason. I have since learned that a community and set of ethics for book reviewers exist.
Yeah, I'm skeptical on I just learned now.
And that blew my freaking mind considering the fact that I have done several book reviews and was never aware I didn't know that community exists, and I was certainly never approached by a community like that.
They did not approach me, therefore I had no idea they existed. Sure.
Now, as far as picking Gabby over Rachel, that's simply just not true. My friendship with Rachel ended because I felt like she violated my trust, not once, but 3 times.
So Jimmy says that Rachel taking their conversation about the book review to Twitter 3 times was her 3 strikes and the friendship was broken. And that just makes me wonder if the only reason he's still friends with Gabby Hanna is because he rarely talks to her, and that leaves very little opportunity for her to break his trust.
Now, in regards to my friendship with Gabby Hanna, I'm not going to go into incredible detail. I'm not going to be sharing contents of conversations because, like I just said, I think that would violate our trust. But Gabby and I are friends because she reached out after seeing some of my content, and we ended up having very interesting conversations about those things. It's worth noting, though, that it probably wouldn't have changed much, but when we were having those conversations, I was mostly unaware of Gabby's history. When we met, I honestly thought her biggest crimes were like these edgy TikToks.
And apparently his opinion still has not changed.
Either way, I tend to want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And she showed a lot of interest in my story and also was excited to share stories of her own with someone that she felt could understand.
Jimmy, please do not try to build a woe is me, the world doesn't understand narrative for Gabby Hanna. She's 30 years old.
Now, that said, we've also had very big disagreements and have gotten in very heated fights. Usually also about things that are related to supernatural stuff, I guess you could say, but other things too. But as far as our friendship goes, we are friendly and we are kind to each other, but we don't talk very often at all. And I feel like that's been lost too in calling her my friend.
So yeah, I was right. They actually don't talk very much, just like Jimmy said in the last video. So he thinks he can make her a better person via the Sometimes show?
Like this year, we've only spoken a couple of times for the entire year. And then a handful of times before make up our entire friendship before that.
Okay. So Jimmy knows enough about Gabby then, not the nitty gritty, but enough of what she wants him to know so that he can build up this narrative, and because they talk so infrequently, she can't do anything to disrupt it.
But I just personally do not believe in guilt by association or isolating people that we don't agree with. If anything, I actually believe that those are horrible practices, that those make the world more polarized and more violent.
Okay, but until someone actually holds Gabby Hanna accountable, I really don't see her changing. I mean, why change what works? She still has people willing to watch her YouTube. She still has people willing to watch her music. She still has people willing to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Believe it or not, I absolutely have no problem telling Gabby things that I don't like or agree with. But again, we don't talk that often, so we're not covering that much stuff.
So that part about we should be rooting for him to get through to her from the first video. Okay.
I don't also think so much of myself or so little of her humanity that I think she doesn't deserve me as just a kind and positive person in her life. Now, I will tell you, I can't speak for the future. I'm going to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. But I would say as of late, there have been details that I have learned more recently, a lot coming from some of you, that have made me much more apprehensive, and I am probably now a little more on guard.
And yet, here we are.
So while we're still going to keep up the Sometimes show Monday through Thursday, we are right now trying to make sure that you get at least one segment during those Monday through Thursday shows of Dear Mr. Atheist, and then a dedicated of Dear Mr. Atheist on the weekend, at least one.
Yeah, so I mean, that's nice and all, but putting a Dear Mr. Atheist segment into the Sometimes show just makes it sound like you're trying to trick people into watching the Sometimes show.
I hope that there can be a positive place for me in the world and a positive type of activism with me in it going forward.
All right, we made it to the end of the video. I did write down a few notes during the last part. Too much explanation, too much guilt trip, too much rambling. Pretty sure you put the Gabby bit in between the filler so people might overlook it. Rachel did a book review. Gabby did an attack. Jimmy is not Daryl Davis. Too much patting on the back. When apologizing, don't make excuses and talk about your feelings. So I do partly feel bad for Jimmy because I think this spiraled beyond anything he could have foreseen. But at the same time, this situation feels wrong and just rubs me the wrong way entirely. And I don't foresee myself returning to the Jimmy Snow channel, even if they completely get rid of the Sometimes show and go back to Mr. Atheist 24/7. But it is up to every individual and how they want to go forward. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope everyone has a good day, and I will see you in the next one.